Restraining orders, how they're used in divorce. Oh, they're awesome, man. Actually, that's the first discussion you should have, is how to utilize a restraining order. And possibly even before you file for divorce. Why? Because it's a great tool to use against your opponent, which is your spouse, or safety and protection, and it's definitely going to affect the court and the judge. So I'm going to give you an example of what happened to me. In 1988, I was served for divorce in September, at work of all places. Just a fucking embarrassment, in the community and so on. And word gets around right away, especially a small community in St. Paul. Catholic church, Catholic school, and I got 3 kids, man, And along with it was, besides the divorce, the standard, and the request for compensation, the request for temporary relief and money and so on, which is unbelievable, there's a 1-pager that says restraining order. I didn't have an attorney at the time. I didn't know what was going on. And I was referred to a divorce attorney or family law attorney in 1988 to some attorney that fucking didn't give a shit. He just knew that the referral was for his client, which was me, a business attorney. So they knew my potential and that I was the breadwinner and I was making some money. So I get this restraining order. I said, what's a restraining order? For what? Well, for abuse. Rock, don't worry about it. Doesn't mean anything. It's just standard. It's just a strategic tool that family law attorneys use. Well, hold it here. Hold it here. It affects me. It affects my future. A temporary restraining order or a permanent goes on your record, and it could affect a lot of different things, i.e. custody, i.e. jobs. You're criminal. You're considered a criminal. You know that. So restraining orders are fucking terrible. And I'm going to give you another example that I should have used one. And by the way, I've only received one in my lifetime. I'm 71, and it was in a divorce, a restraining order. Okay? I mean, that's one thing you have to understand. Restraining orders are very inexpensive. They're accusations. You don't even have to prove anything. And it's just a strategic tool that attorneys use to go after what they're looking for their client. And I didn't have a very sharp attorney in 1988 or in the year 2022 when I went through my second divorce, when I should have used a restraining order. But I've learned from other people, from other men usually, why they received restraining orders. And by the way, if a restraining order is for domestic, there's no other issues but call the cops and you're out of your house. That's the fear that every man or woman should have. A domestic restraining order, because it doesn't go away. Because don't forget, once that form is signed by the judge who knows nothing of it except that you got to request, okay, this guy, no problem. Okay? You might have to go to anger management. You might be going through a divorce. You might be trying to get custody. Forget getting a job during that time or switching jobs, or your current employer finds out. It's terrible, man. So restraining orders are terrible. So let me go back to 2022 when I asked my wife for a divorce, and I own the home outright, to the point where I was exclusive owner. My ex-wife, when married me, she had no rights to my home. And I had a prenup. When I look back at it, my attorney, the first thing she should have did was, Rock, let's put a restraining order on your exclusivity ownership of that condo. It would have saved me 7 months of trying to get her out of the house. Would have saved me a ton of money, what they call temporary relief, and the fear of a domestic violent phone call where they would have kicked me out of the house. That's all it took, was one phone call. So when I look back at restraining orders and I'm looking at my YouTube breadwinner concerns, it hit me, a restraining order. That's huge, man. And a restraining order should be used when it happens. In other words, let's say you're married and you have a couple kids and something happens. You come home drunk, male or female, and you make there's an argument. Make sure you have a strategy. In fact, I hope that everyone is even thinking about a divorce or preparing that they may get divorced. You have a family law referral, because you need a lawyer to be able to file a restraining order. So you need to protect yourself. And let's face it, don't abuse anybody at any time or anywhere, especially at your home, okay? So my recommendation is, before you go through your divorce, before you serve or before you're served, and if you receive a restraining order, don't go texting your ex-wife or spouse. Don't go responding through text, email, voicemail, none of that. Settle down, man. It's standard. It's just a strategic tool. And you could really fuck it up for $30. That's what they cost. It costs about $30. Maybe they're $50 now. You know? And that's all it takes. And then you got to defend it somehow, some way, because they're just going to keep pounding. You're the bad person that's trying to defend one. Now, let's say you receive one. You call that family attorney that I just talked to you about, family law attorney, that you might have never retained, but you're just prepared to act. Don't respond to a judge. Don't respond to an ex-wife, the police, nobody. You document everything. You call your family attorney. They'll probably charge you for an engagement letter, they call it. And then you might have to pay the $50 plus their time might be $500. So overall, it's going to cost you, okay? But at least you're protecting yourself, because an eye for an eye, that's all it is, an eye for an eye. And then when the judge sees that you're playing and protecting yourself as a father or as a mother, it's good. And don't go talking to your brothers, your sisters, your mom and your dad and all that shit. No, you might need money, but guess what? There are attorneys out there that will work with you, especially if they know the spouse has assets or you have assets or you own a home. Hey, at the bottom line is, it's always going to come down to money. It's always going to come down to money. Even if they don't ask you for an engagement letter, you're going to fucking sign and you're going to realize, oh my God, it just cost me $50,000, $100,000. And if it goes a year, to me, a year or less in a divorce, that's a win, man. That's a win, because you figured it out. So this is all about restraining orders and the strategic tool that it plays and how powerful it is. So I'm trying to give you a heads up. And as I mentioned before, that's all it took in 1988 for my ex-wife to put a restraining order on me that wasn't legitimate. And I'll guarantee you my kids don't even know that. This is how dirty divorce is. But if you got experience like my ex-wife had, these guys are pros, man. If their mother and father went through divorce, or their sisters went and their brothers went through divorce, or they have a family law attorney on their side, fuck. You're fucked. You are at a disadvantage. That's why you have to prepare yourself. Don't fucking get married. I just said it. Don't get married. You could have kids without marriage. They'll give up the kids. I know people right now that aren't married fighting over kids, and they won't sign the birth certificate because they don't want to pay, child support. That's how bad it is in today's world. I know a woman that had an abortion because she didn't want to have children, and her boyfriend ran. Unbelievable what people will do. People give up their kids. I know people that were in negotiations of a divorce. They threw him in jail for not paying child support. He called his father and he said, "Isn't there a way I can get out of this?" He goes, "Yeah, make her a one-time offer and never see the kids because they'll be back when they're 18. Guess what he did? He gave up the kid. The child never came back until they were in their 30s, and then they asked for money, and the father felt insulted that they asked for money. They thought they were coming back to develop a relationship. And that daughter, the one he gave up, eventually had grandchildren that he's never seen. So what game do you want to play? What game do you want to play? If you want children, you want to marry somebody that loves you, man, and that's going to get in the foxhole with you. Not everybody's getting in the foxhole. Now, I'm going to admit that I wasn't a very good husband. I was all about my career, I was all about my finances, and I was all about my kids and my family and my foundation. So what did the mom do? She found love with my paycheck. That's right. Found love. Guy was married, had kids, had multiple mistresses, and he was broke. So let's face it. Who did their due diligence? And here's the response I got. It's the first man that ever loved me. Fuck. I'm living to say it. I've heard a lot of restraining orders applied to most men because I've belonged to men's groups. But now it's like, no problem. I know what restraint is. It's all bullshit. And that's how attorneys look at it and judges and everything else. It's just another ploy for them to get another $1,000 to fight it. And guess what? You could throw it against the wall. They're never going to accuse you for more than that. It's just that, oh, you got a restraining order. But it's the aftermath. I probably fought for that. I don't even know if it's on my record anymore. 40 years ago. I don't know. My kids are listening to this. They probably didn't realize I had a restraining order because I was abusive. What abuse? I don't know what abuse that was. Emotional, mental. It wasn't physical. It wasn't I'm a drunkard or anything like that. Yeah, I admit I was a workaholic and I expected the mother to be there. Yeah, I did. 40 years later, she's still not there for the kids, is how I look at it. She never committed. That's the other thing I hear from men usually is they didn't keep to the sacrament. They didn't keep to their commitment. Well, of course not. It's always greener on the other side till they realize, oh my God, I just fucked up. And the other catch is the Social Security, be married at least 10 years. Go look up the rules. They always want to meet that 10-year mark. After 10 years, it's all over because then they're going to get Social Security at your compensation, 50% of your compensation that they would probably never met because most of them in my life were unemployable because their excuse was they were housewives, homemakers. That's another word that comes up. I'm a homemaker. I take care of the home. My second marriage, married 12 years, no income, consider herself a consultant on my tax return all those years until the last one. I'm a homemaker. Yeah, unbelievable. But it's like a restraining order. And like my attorney says, be careful, Rock. Be careful. She could call the cops at any time. Well, that's when she should have said, let's get a restraining order. That restraining order, I filed, but once I filed, because I was so scared to fucking force my prenup, and guess what? Their response was, I contest. That's all it took, was I contest. And 6 figures later with attorneys, they got their money, and they all walked away. And my ex-wife walked away. Haven't heard from her in over 3 years, just so they get that lump sum payment once a year. Now it's done. But the restraining order would have changed a lot if I filed at the same time that I served her for a divorce and the prenup. Would have made a big difference because it didn't matter. It's just submitted with everything else. And you think a judge is not going to sign something when you request one? And of course, they could come back and give me one. But at least they would have kicked her out. Yes, it would have changed a lot of things. So I'm giving you a heads up. Restraining orders are very, very important. So there's a few things that you have to understand. Restraining orders, prenups, and private investigation before you get married of the spouse and the family. Because it all involves transparency. You know what I mean? Transparency? The facts. Here's what's going on. And if you do a private investigation or a background check, you find out what they've worked, how much money they made, if there's any criminal record, there's any other restraining orders. How many restraining orders have men received by one single person? I'll guarantee you, they know the rules. They know what's going on. I know a kid that was dating a woman, got a restraining order, went through the whole fucking process, not even married. They found out she was a loony bird, okay? He still had to go to court. It cost him $15,000 for attorney fees, and here, she didn't show up because it's all fucking false. It's all false. And at the end of the day, it sounded like she wanted to marry him, and he says, no, I'm not going to marry you. So be aware, man, of what you're getting into. Money matters. Money matters. Family does not, is what I've learned. There's no loyalty. I've been divorced 40 years from my first wife, and she hates my guts. It's okay. What I didn't like is that she showed it to my kids. And now my kids are in their 40s, and now they go, God, I wish my parents... No. What I wish is they get along with their spouses. That's what I wish. Because I hope my grandkids see the love in the family of the mother and the father. That's what I want to see. But who am I to judge? Restraining orders? Believe me, I've seen them in my family. I've seen cease and desist in my family. That's the difference. That money is number one. Money matters. I hope I gave you enough information of how important it is. A restraining order is important. No matter prior marriage, during marriage, after marriage. Once that post-marriage and you're out of it, like I am, I haven't seen her in 3.5 years, I am fucking happy. Okay? Why? Because it took one settlement declaration to say I have no obligation or liability when I die, that my kids know. Dad took care of everything. Thanks, Dad. But would I suspect that my ex-wife would try to come after more money upon my death at any time? You're damn right. How do I know that? Because the IRS is after her, and she's got my last name. So I have to hire an attorney to send a letter to Social Security to say, hey, I have nothing to do with this ex-wife. This is her name. Here's her Social Security number. It's over. Something's going on. Something's going on. So restraining orders are important, guys. And I'll tell you, if you have a restraining order and you go looking for a job, it's terrible. It's terrible. Custody, you got to defend yourself, man. You got to protect yourself and your family. So I hope this is one of the better tips that you're not thinking about. Restraining order is important. Now, let's say you remarry. Make sure you check out your future spouse that they've never filed a restraining order, because it'll be on the record, and who it's against. It's called a body count. You got to check these out. And I'm not saying men and women are good or bad. I'm just saying what obsession will do. Obsession will eventually go to death. If you don't learn how to forgive people, and as I mentioned before, it takes years to learn, and it's a gift. You'll know that release of that pressure. It's a beautiful thing, man. And so, I'm learning so much, not only my stories, other stories. Because I could be at the coffee, where I'm learning a lot of this is friends and coffee shops and just talking to people. I'm proud to tell people I'm on YouTube, this is what I talk about. They might think, oh, fuck, why do you want to talk about your divorce? It's not about my divorce, it's about protecting yourself. And it's all about the kids. It's all about the kids. The parents or the children are always going to love the mother and the father. They're going to disagree, about, what side you're on, but, it doesn't matter. I know what side I'm on. I'm on God's side. 10 Commandments. Do the best you can, because that's my goal. I'm hoping and wishing that there's a heaven, because that's what I'm working for. And if I could help other people, I've been a coach for the last 25 years, coaching businessmen and women. I'd say 99.9% have been men, of how to do the right thing. And a lot of them don't do the right thing. And at the end of the day, I'm telling you, during COVID especially, it's always down to money. It's always down to money. What about these politicians? What about these wars going on? What about terrorists? What about country versus country? It's either, It's either religion or money. Let's face it, it's money. Okay? It's fucking money. And that's what happens in families. Jealousy, envy, who's paying the bill, who can afford it. Don't assume that things are great behind closed doors. I've suffered just like everybody else has suffered. It's just, how do you get out of it? What's the best way to do the right thing and take the high road? It's hard. It's hard to do. And I don't know if my videos, my YouTube or my TikTok is resonating with people. But I'm just letting you know, man, this is all part of life. Business is pretty easy if you do the right thing. And that's why I call it the 3 T's. Do you trust your future client? Is your client transparent? Are they doing the right thing? And then will they meet the criteria within a certain amount of time? I call them timeline. So the 3 T's are trust, transparency, and timeline. And I could assume, I shouldn't say assume, I will predict over 30, 60, and 90 days whether someone is going to be a good client or a bad client. And I would say it's more on the 10% or less that are good clients. 90% never get to home base, never get to do the homework, never are committed, and that's what I've seen in my marriages. When you're an athlete or a businessman and you're really committed to it and you know what the right thing is, I married women that never got to the finish line, never finished a sport, never finished a commitment or dedication. They know how to deceit, manipulate, execute for negative. That's part of the due diligence. You know when people get to the finish line, you know? Because the finish line is called achievements, and they're called goals. And it takes a step at a time. That's why I'm so proud of my 50-year career in business. And that's 8 different careers in a way. 8 different businesses. And each one had a ending. Good, bad, or ugly. But at the end of the day, I'm saying, what can I do next? I want to help young people. The people that follow me on LinkedIn especially, they're mostly business people. And my audience on YouTube is 45 and older. And it's close to 60% of my audience. And my social media is probably, let me see here, 10, 20, probably in the 30 followers mark, maybe more. But not everybody listens or buys into the Kool-Aid. But it only takes 1 or 2 things to help people. And I think this restraining order is a big deal. It's a big deal because it's an enforcement of protection. And not only of your kids, your finance, it's you personally and your reputation. Who wants to? You think I want to be known that I'm a 2-time loser in marriage? Rock's not a very good husband. Fuck that. It takes 2. Will I pick a wife that I've already had? I'm going different. I'm not even thinking about marriage, man. Believe me. I'm thinking about you. Restraining orders. Get to know them, man. Go on AI. Go on AI and just prepare yourself because it may happen to you. And if you get a restraining order, do you remember what I said? What not to do? Number 1, don't react. Stay calm. Call an attorney. Respond. Or if you're ready to say something, get an attorney now. Apply a restraining order. Still live with them. And just say, hey, listen, I had to protect myself and my kids. That's it. I'll tell you, they will fucking freak out, man. They might even turn around and do something really nasty and not be as prepared as you and start bad-mouthing you, send you a text, send you shit. Like my buddy showed up to pick up his shit at his home, unattended. Who pulls up behind him while he's packing? A fucking cop car with 2 cops to escort him out. And oh, by the way, here's a restraining order. After it was all set up between the husband and the wife and the kids were home. That's how nasty it gets. And that's from the attorney saying, hey, let's drive him crazy. And that was an extra $20,000 The day they were on the to settle on the steps, that same attorney that put the restraining order asked for $20,000 additional to walk away from trial. Okay? Don't trust these attorneys, I've told you. You have to have your own strategy. And you use an attorney only because they have the license to administrate documents. They're called motions. That's all. Don't need any advice anymore. Come on. All right. I think that's enough about restraining orders. I think I gave you enough stories. My editors will cut this in a few different ways. And I want to thank you for watching my shit, hearing me out. If you disagree, no problem. Comment. Okay? Share. I don't care what you say. You know? I've been through all this shit. I'm out there to protect. Now, if my kids came to me and said, Dad, I got a problem you talking this way. No. I got to keep going. It's not trying to protect my kids. I've already protected my kids. I did the best I could. But now I'm a fucking wise man. You know? I've earned this gray hair. I've earned this fucking mind. It's called knowledge, wisdom, experience, restraining order, cease and desist. I've got them all from family and non-family. Okay? But never in business. Why? I always took the high road. You got to be careful with people underneath the fucking mud. It's fucking dirty and filthy and nasty under there. And what they're looking for is the breadwinner with money. Because money is number one. Family doesn't count. I'm sorry. I'll talk to you soon. Very soon.